crunch mode for that was just constant. It got a little more heated. Like I remember fighting with, like we were squirting each other with water pistols, and we got into this wrestling match where we're trying to dunk water in each other's heads, and it was getting really like, I was like, this has gone too far. We're trying to kill each other. I think we really want to kill each other. And I was married at the time, and that's when that marriage ended, because I was like at work all the time. I didn't understand why it bothered my wife. I was like, I'm the one working super hard. Why are you complaining they're not coming home? And she was like, okay, fine. And then before I knew it, it was over, and I was like, oh, that's why I should have gone home.
Wow. Tim Schafer joined us, and he was dropping some wisdom. Or actually, he was just talking about his experience with crunch. You know, sometimes crunch is kind of self-imposed because of the passion for the craft. Sometimes it's imposed upon you to meet a deadline, and those feel very different.
And it's also industry chatter. So, like, people know which studios crunch more than others.
It's sort of cultural a little bit.
Cultural, too.
I think our industry has matured a lot. I'm not sure we give ourselves enough credit for, well, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to give yourself credit for, like, stopping being a criminal. Right. But
well, some aren't criminals.
It definitely has changed.
Some aren't criminals. So there are.
I was exaggerating.
Yeah. There are some though. There are some that look for people that are straight out of college.
Right. Just try to take advantage. Yeah.
And they're like, this person's gonna work 80 hours a week. I'll hire them, pay them $20K a year.
Not so good. But how cool was it to hang out with Tim? He just makes me laugh constantly.
Yeah, he's funny.
I kept noticing myself kind of falling off camera because I was laughing.
He was funny. I want to talk about this. Whenever I opened my mouth about, I think conspiracy theories came up. I think he brought it up.
You must have felt real comfortable because you were
I
just
love
happy
talking about that stuff. And I wanted to preface, so people are about to listen to the episode, and there's a part where we started talking. We didn't get to finish the point, but I told you after we stopped recording. And I wanted to talk about, because the concept of conspiracy theories is very similar, specifically the moon landing, is very similar to the game industry. Have you ever heard of the E3 demo?
Have I ever heard of the E3 demo?
You know the E3 demo. You've probably made a few yourself.
Oh, you mean the smoke and mirrors?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The everything is scripted. But you know what I mean?
Hold on a second. I can't just let you go off on this thing where you started off by saying that the moon landing is a conspiracy.
I never said it was fake. There are fake elements of it, is what I'm saying. So it's like, I'll give you an example. The moon lander itself.
You're just saying it's partially fake.
There are elements of the moon landing that are fake, I believe, on purpose. And like think about it. Like imagine it's like the E3 demo.
My hand is hovering over the edit button. You know that, right?
No, dude, you do that all the time. It's like an in-game. I'll give you an example. We've taken screenshots. So every game I've worked on, the game's not out yet. Electronic Gaming Monthly is like, hey, we need screenshots.
Yes.
And then it's
you pose it.
And we don't have, you pose the camera. Yeah. We don't, hey, that effect isn't ready.
Do you remember Ben Bro talking about how he had to do those screenshots?
Yeah. The thing, yeah. And they probably photoshopped them too. Post.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I think there's fake elements, and I think people use those.
Maybe they got a little like Photoshop, the alpha version of Photoshop back in '69 on that moon landing.
I think they have fake photographs that they used in marketing, not for the moon landing
like
specifically,
but like promo stuff maybe.
Yeah, in the '80s probably they're like, oh, let's just take this picture and put him in space, and then the conspiracy. That's all I wanted to say. See, I see it every time we talk about this stuff. You freeze up.
Well, look, I just want people to think this episode is about conspiracy theories.
No, it's not.
It was a little bit of flavor, maybe.
I want to clarify. And everyone that can't see you. Alex, by the way, everyone, audience, when this stuff comes up, because this stuff comes up with like other people, important people, and I'm in the room, and Alex, you can see his face. It's so funny. You get scared so quick. You're like, oh snap, what's Aaron going to say? No, Aaron, no. And this is true. Y'all used to have a website. What was it called?
Aaron
the one
says,
at IT, like, because I would say random stuff.
That was one of my favorite sites. We got to bring back. All right. Well, okay. How are you, buddy? What's happening? What's going on? You're coming out here. We're all going to hang out. I'm excited for next week. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to hang out, going to California.
You didn't get the COVID over at Gen Con, did you? You good?
No, apparently everybody did.
Oh,
I think I've had COVID 72 times.
I was talking to somebody the other day who told me they've had it 4 times. like actual straight up 4 times. I had it once. It was not fun. Can't imagine.
No, it's the worst thing I've ever had. You can't breathe. Like it's a very like. Ugh.
All right.
Yeah, it's not good.
I got a couple
it's
things.
It's
real. Hey, actually,
conspiracy
hold on a
theory.
second. Hold on a second. Wait right there.
Wait, hold on. You can't get away while we're doing a video. All right, well, he's gone. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Alex actually has a basement. And inside the basement.
That is true, actually. I got
no.
this in the mail, and I think I know what it is, and I'm going to open it up. I think.
What is it?
I'm excited.
On camera. Here we go.
I'm excited for this.
Oh, wait, we're not doing camera.
It's packed really well.
Where'd you get it from? Who sent it to you?
No,
David Jones.
But it is from another OG famous
he's in
game
Scotland.
dev. Let me see. I think it is. I think this is it. Yep.
Who is it?
Okay. All right. Look at that.
How come I don't get anything in the mail?
So this is John Romero's
snap.
book.
John Romero, Doom Guy.
And
watch it say, "Dear Aaron, I love your voice." What does it say? From Doom Guy to Halo Guy. Nice.
I couldn't wait to start reading it, so I actually started reading it before I got here. It's and it's getting incredible reviews.
Is it good?
Really good. All right, what else is going on? Oh, hey, I want to give a shout out to our old buddy Mark Bernal. We reconnected with Mark on our Discord,
cool, yeah.
and
I love
he's
Mark.
nicest guy. He was the art director
Nicest
on
guy in
Myth,
the universe.
indie artist. He's got it. Go check out his website, suddenuniverse.com. Go check out suddenuniverse.com, and he is giving us a T-shirt to give away. Yeah, check out his art. His art is he's got a super cool style, and his merch is pretty cool. So we're going to give it away. He very generously is donating one of his custom T-shirts, which will enter into our codes game. So head on over to our Discord for a chance to win some of that merch. Thanks, Mark.
His style reminds me of a mix between Mobius and Crumb.
Huh? Yeah.
It's kind of like a... It's like somewhere in the middle. Like it's like, imagine those are two extremes. He's like...
I think he'd like that. I think he would like that description. That's a pretty nice description. All right, man. I'm excited to share this conversation with Tim. Why don't we get that rolling?
Leveling up your game dev career but not sure where to start?
Maybe you're trying to break into the industry, looking to connect with other people who are making games.
Consider joining the International Game Developers Association, the IGDA, the world's largest nonprofit, member-driven professional association serving all individuals who create games.
I was in the IGDA in Chicago, met a lot of people. Great way to network.
The IGDA exists to support and empower game developers around the world in achieving fulfilling and sustainable careers.
Discounts,
educational and advocacy-based resources,
mentorship,
and solidarity across 160-plus chapters.
To join the IGDA, visit igda.org/membership and use the code IGDA 4th Curtain 15, no spaces there,
to get 15% off 1- and 2-year memberships, as well as a student membership.
Joining the IGDA is a great move for your career, and as a nonprofit supporting everyone making games, it's a great move for the whole community. Join today. Hello, everyone. Aaron and I are honored to have with us today a favorite of mine, I think a favorite of all of ours, Tim Schafer.
Welcome,
hey, Tim.
Is it appropriate for me to woo myself?
Yeah, it is. I didn't say hi to you. I'm Aaron, by the way. I didn't say hi to you.
Hi to you both. Hi to both of you.
Well, let's see. Tell me how accurate the rest of this intro is, Tim.
Okay, I'll make sounds.
Yeah.
Started at LucasArts. Mm-hmm. You worked on Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle. Mm-hmm. My favorite from your catalog, Full Throttle, which I'll tell you my
pet peeve. Your pet peeve.
No, it's not a pet peeve. It's a big compliment. And Grim Fandango. That was at Lucas, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so I'm doing pretty good so far. Soon thereafter, leaving Lucas, founded Double Fine. Mm-hmm. And I know the year that you said, that must have been 2003, right? Was that 2003?
The year 2000.
Was it 2000?
Mm-hmm. Grim was 98, Double Fine started 2000.
All right. Okay, because it was right around when we started Wide Load.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't stop talking about this, by the way, Tim. This comes up like 10 times, at least 10 times a week.
What, the year 2003?
What?
what he's about to tell you.
Oh,
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I remember there was a GDC where they gave out an award for Best New Studio that we were nominated, but Double Fine won.
Oh,
Deservedly. I hope you covet that trophy and still have it.
I was just polishing that trophy the other day. I moved it from one, no joke, I moved it from one shelf to a more visible position. And I was like, someday Alex is going to come to the studio and he's going to see this and then I'll have him. Yeah. Then I got him.
Alex has a spot on his shelf that's empty where it was going to go.
And it's a picture of me with a knife in my forehead.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yes. Okay. All right. So Double Fine, Psychonauts, Brutal Legend, Broken Age, many, many more. We were just talking about Costume Quest. Tim, I believe you are a champion of indie game development. I believe that because I think you helped get Day of the Devs off the ground. Mm-hmm. But you can tell us about your involvement with that because it seems really awesome. This year, you were inducted into the Game Hall of Fame. So, like, you're a Hall of Famer.
At DICE, where I got a trophy and COVID. A dual trophy.
It was a two.
Probably was coating the outside of the trophy.
It like shot like a little vapor. Like when
somebody licked that trophy.
Because they don't want you doing stuff after your Lifetime Achievement Award. They would rather you just kick it right after. So it's like the high point.
Well, you showed them. Welcome to the show, Tim. Great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Welcome,
Honored to be here.
How are you?
I'm great.
I try to do research. And I know you a bit, but I did a bunch of Googling, and here's what I learned.
Okay, I'm excited about this.
You got into games because of the...
I'm a brew chef in Michigan, right?
Oh, well, actually, you are, or a version of you, I think, is on one of those watch lists.
Oh, Jesus, really?
Yeah, football star and on one of those watch lists. But those are alternate.
A watch
I gotta look this up. I'm gonna be on a plane soon. Is this gonna be a problem? No fly. What do you mean, like sexiest man alive watch list? Is that what you're talking about?
What are you talking
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Of course, well,
that makes more sense.
Yes, that's the list we made. The Magnavox Odyssey.
Yay! I still have it in the office, not the original.
Was this your? Wait, did you say you have one at the office?
Yeah, I rebought it.
Like hooked up.
My parents chucked the old one.
Okay.
But I haven't.
Well, so my first exposure to games was Atari 2600. My dad brought home with the Sears Telegames, was the sort of the knockoff version because my dad was very frugal.
You have one there too, huh?
You have a Sears Telegames?
Yeah, my original is an Atari, and I have that at the office. And then to play at home, during COVID, I got really deep into retro games and Atari games, and so I got this Telegames Heavy Sixer over here.
That's awesome.
As a kid, though, I was a big snob. I was like, that's just not a real Atari.
What was your very first console? Like very first
The Odyssey,
video
like
game?
you said, the Magnavox Odyssey, which was the very first console ever. And I didn't realize this. I always thought that it had a version of Pong on it. This is great. It has a version of Pong on it, but this is where Pong was copying the Magnavox. Someone's going to correct me on this. I might have this totally wrong. But that Max Barrett at Magnavox made the Odyssey, and he had a game on it, and then Atari was like, let's put that in a bar, and made Pong. If I have that wrong, I apologize to Nolan Bushnell and everybody, but I believe that was the order, and I only learned that like last year. I thought it was the other way around.
Sounds legit. I was looking at the game list on the Odyssey, and I don't know if it was similar to the Atari, where there were a lot of different games. There was like the war games, there were sports games, but they all had there was parachute, whatever. Similar mechanics, very limited.
Yeah,
palette of mechanics, and the graphics were all the same.
They might be thinking of the Odyssey 2, which is a real console that has actual graphics on it. The Odyssey 1 was really cool at the time, but it was just basically Pong paddles and a ball for every game. And there'd be different rules, like maybe the Pong paddle would bounce back and forth, or maybe it was treated like a missile and it would blow up one of the Pong paddles. But they all had the same graphics, and then the actual graphics for the game were these little acetate sheets that you'd lay on top of your monitor, and your CRT monitor. And
I remember
and the
that,
static cling, like if you remember feeling the screens of old TVs when you turned them on, there would be this powerful static magnetism kind of feeling, and it would just cling. The acetate would cling to the screen, and then you would have a tennis court for the simplest one, but they had ones like a haunted house, and you'd move the ping pong paddles in the windows of the haunted house to represent ghosts. And there was a submarine hunt one where the submarine had to move along a maze, while the battleship, which was it was a picture of a battleship. And then you move the ping pong paddle over the picture, like to symbolize that's what it was. And the ball would come flying at you like Pong, and you'd hit it, and it would try and hit the other submarine, which was moving along this maze, but only on the honor system. It was just a piece of graphics in your CRT screen. It wasn't you weren't constrained to the maze at all, but you were just supposed to follow it while this ball was flying at you. Anyway, really primitive, and the cartridges weren't even cartridges; they were just switches, kind of like a PCB printed logic, because there was the Pong and all the logic was on the Odyssey console itself, and then these things you'd slide in, these cards would just turn on and off switches that would make it behave differently. That's it. That's cool. So I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I was like, Dad, get more of these cartridges. Get more of these. Oh my God. And he's like, no, I'm thinking about getting one of these video computer systems. And I was like, what's that? And then that's where I catch up with you with the Atari.
Right.
Wow.
Did you say you said Telestar earlier, right?
Telegames is the Sears
Telegames.
rebranding of Atari stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, because I had the Coleco Telestar, the Pong.
Ooh, what was that like? I never had that.
It was just like it had 2 Pong games, or 2 or 3.
That's before ColecoVision, right? So that's
maybe, yeah. I remember my dad brought it home, and it was just paddle game and paddle against the wall. And then,
wasn't television Coleco, or was that? Are those
television?
two separate?
It's its own thing.
Wait, which is the one that you would put the little acetate, or was it acetate? It was like these little plastic. The controller had like a million things on it, and then the games would come with these little cards that you would slide in.
There were a few, but in television, I think it was the first one. I had like a little dial at the top and then a keypad, and then you'd slide in these little membranes. And if you played a game like Utopia, which was really fun, Don Daglow game, you could slide in these things and have all these options, like a computer game. Like, oh, I could press this for fishing, I could press this for that, and do. Anyway, I thought it was. I never had one. I bought one at a garage sale.
My cousins had one in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this thing?
And all these things have super. I mean, not the Odyssey, I don't think, but all the other things have really lively homebrew things going on right now. There's people making new Intellivision games, new Atari games, maybe new Odyssey games, definitely new Odyssey 2 games.
McDonald's made a Game Boy Color game for Grimace. I just saw that too.
That's deep. That's deep.
I remember Ed Freeze. I don't know if you know Ed, but he.
Oh, I remember Ed Freeze.
Yeah, so he did a 2600 cart of Halo.
Yeah, I can show you.
You
But
have
we're not
it?
on video.
Yeah,
I have it right up there.
What?
Yeah. Okay, you don't believe me? All right, hold on.
Are you got to be kidding me? We're like what 10 for 10? What?
Oh
so
yes.
Good. All right, what else? Come on, let's throw something else.
I got tons of. I'm really into
Randos.
homebrew stuff. Yeah, and Vectrex. That's my.
I don't know if he got an official license for that.
I don't know. They recently took it off the store at Atari Age. They're like, we're done with licensed stuff. It's too much of a pain. And I assumed he got permission, but maybe it was just like he's so high up there. He was so high up. He's like, oh, hey, Bill Gates, I'm doing this. Okay.
He gave himself permission.
But that inspired me, and I learned the 2600 code, and I've been making during COVID my own little homebrew games on the Atari. It's really fun.
Oh, really?
Because I don't really get to program in my job.
Any you want to shout out?
No, it's all secret. No one can know. But I enjoy making them. When I'll finish, I'll shout a lot of
That's 6502.
6502, which I learned.
6502 assembler.
Yeah, I learned that when I was in like 8th grade for my Atari 800, Atari 400, and then the 800. And I was trying to make games on that. I was very bad at it, but
So yeah, that's actually I didn't really know that. I mean, you kind of started as a programmer, right? Did you went to Berkeley to get a computer science degree? Did you get a computer science degree?
CS degree, yeah. As I tell my programmers every day, listen, you guys. I know just enough about computer programming to make your life a living hell. Because I have these really simple solutions to everything that worked when games were like 8K. And like, hey, you should. Yeah. Our joke is always the designers would always ask the programmers, "Why don't you use an if-then statement, like something from BASIC or something like that?" Like the programmers would be like, "Yeah, you should." It wouldn't scale, but I still look. So it's fun to be able to do things by yourself. Like I love collaborating with the team at work, but you do that for years and years and years. And like you start to fantasize about doing things like writing a book or making your own homebrew game, because like, what if I got to make things and never had to tell anybody about them, or like just when you're collaborating, you're always kind of telling the why. You have a creative idea and you're like, oh, I better think of a reason.
Yeah.
For this. Okay, so you can explain it to the team. Make it sound logical.
Yep. We've talked about this a few times because for me, that's woodworking. That's my garage. Like I'll go in there and I build something, anything I want. And I don't have to collaborate with anybody. I don't have to justify anything. A few other folks that we've talked to have had related similar things. Or like doing a solitary creative thing is different.
Yeah, they're both important. I think they're both important to do for your brain health.
Yeah.
Because with working with other people, it's challenging. It can be irritating. But if you do it Well, you get the best of everyone's ideas. You get all the, the best ideas that whole group has.
Refined.
If it's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot about my old boss, George. George Lucas, because he had to collaborate with so many people when he made Star Wars and American Graffiti. Like, he had these different editors, and he probably had always said, if you get 45% of what you want, you're doing pretty good. And then later in his career, he was ultimately powerful. He had all the money, and he made, like Episode 1. And I'm not trying to jump on Episode 1, but like, I think it shows sometimes when you get everything, you can do everything the way you want it. It doesn't necessarily mean like, finally I can make the perfect thing. Because sometimes the secret to what you made before was in that struggle with other people.
Yeah.
Dude, I really like them. I watched them again recently after like the last, and I really
I
really
do. Point there.
Okay, you're totally undermining my point. I'm super happy that you enjoyed those movies. They cost a lot of money to make. I'm glad someone likes them. I'm sure they're fine. I always think that. I only saw them in the theater once, and I'm like, I bet if I watched them now, right, they'd like them with better, maybe.
Just try, because I went through it. Because there's a guy that we worked, Steve. He wouldn't watch them. He's like, I'm not watching this.
He's never seen them?
Don't exist. Never.
Not even the first time.
Are you start talking about Steve Abeta?
Yeah. He's like, I've never seen them.
He's never watched the first.
I think you might have seen the first one.
You mean Episode 1? Are you talking about Star Wars? Or are you talking
Star
about
Wars Episode 1. I think he would not Episode 4, the original one.
What about Episode? Wait, so he's seen 4 through 6.
4. Yes.
Has he seen 1, 2, 3,
Awaken?
6, 7 through 8, 9, 7 through 9?
I don't think so.
Okay, so he's just sticking to the original. Has he seen Rogue One?
Huh.
I think he's seen Rogue One.
So he just waits.
Rogue One is
good.
That's my favorite.
He waits
one.
for the buzz, and then he decides. Okay.
That's so surprising because this dude's like a huge diehard Disney everything.
Yeah.
It's
we
like,
talk about Star Wars all the time. You would never know.
He doesn't want to pollute it. I've heard about Jar Jar, and I don't want it in my brain. I don't want that in there.
Did George Lucas hang around LucasArts much?
I mean, he was at the ranch, and we would see him at lunch when I was just working at the ranch for the first half year that I was there, and I met him 3 times. Always very nice guy. But but he was around, and there were a lot of in the early days famous people around the ranch because they did Sky Sound. So there'd be Jack Nicholson was there, Robert Redford was walking into the lunchroom once, and he was glowing in the sunshine. I was like, oh my gosh, famous people are better.
It's all those midichlorians.
Yeah, I measured him with my Lady Shake razor, and he had a lot of midichlorians.
All right, well, so
give him a chance though. Give him a chance. Just to go back to it, try it.
Great.
Get some beer. I don't know if you drink beer or not.
List.
Okay, yeah. And then just sit down and go. We're gonna try this.
Yeah, I don't.
Aaron,
you could be pitching anything right now, and I would just have the same roll my eyes reaction.
Really?
Just give it a try. Have a beer and give it a try.
I don't know. I recommend.
What is that? What else is he pitching you? Eating eggplant? Hey, give eggplant a try. Just have a beer.
Exactly. Sometimes he pitches some conspiracy theory stuff.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Chemtrails. Watch this video. Just give it a try.
Drink a beer. Look for the patterns in the sky.
You're right.
And every time you see a chemtrail, just think, was I just thinking about the government just now?
Yeah,
Conspiracy theories used to be a lot more fun. That's all I'm going to say.
What do you mean?
When I was a kid, the conspiracy theory about the fake moon landing and that movie Capricorn 1. Did you ever see Capricorn 1?
I think I have.
Give it a try.
Yeah, that's
get a beer. Give it a try.
Get a beer.
I love that movie because it was about the conspiracy is true and they faked the moon landing and some of the astronauts tried to get away because they were going to kill them and their car chases and this guy climbing a mountain. It's a really, I was pretty young when I saw it, but I thought it was fun. A fun movie, and that old movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and stuff was fun. And we had the whole conspiracy theory level in Psychonauts 1 where he was just believed in all the conspiracies and everything. And then after YouTube and flat earthers started being really no, we were serious. And then QAnon. I think QAnon is ruined it for this isn't fun anymore. These guys are going to shoot Pizzagate. They're going to shoot up a pizza parlor now. That's not funny.
Have you seen the list of the ones that have come true?
Oh, I'm sure they're
there's
MK Ultra. MK Ultra was real, right?
Yeah, it was real.
There's a Bay of Pigs thing or something something involving Cuba that turned out to be true.
Oh yeah, that's a false flag operation, and then there was also
the Bay of Pigs didn't happen.
No, it wasn't the Bay of
Pigs.
It was
Temkin or the Bay. Vietnam. It was a Vietnam thing.
It was something to get them into the war.
I've seen that list. I've seen that list with that thing on it. Yeah.
And then there is a whole bunch of NASA stuff that is actually fake. because it's so expensive. Like there's like some pictures that they use. Like they'll
Okay.
be like,
But are they,
Time out.
are they
Time out.
claiming they're real? Is NASA claiming they're
yeah,
real?
because NASA claims they're real, but it's just
Tim, you got to have a little bit of grain of salt with Aaron, because
Alex,
he
grab a beer.
he will go down these rabbit holes.
Why would
and
NASA fake? Why is it in their interest to
Yeah.
fake anything? Okay.
No, it's just for marketing. It's just for marketing.
They colorize stuff and they say underneath, like, we colored these for an algorithm.
Yeah, right. That's where all that starts.
Yeah.
All right, so we totally went off on a way left turn.
Yeah, you know, some people
Television.
give up little yellow flags. They're like, don't walk on this thin ice, because I will start talking about conspiracy theories in a way that makes you excuse yourself.
Yellow flag, Aaron.
All
All right. So was Full Throttle your first, like, which was the one where it's like, hey, I'm in charge
That was
now.
the first one where I solo led it. Like a Day of the Tentacle, I led with Dave Grossman, co-leads, which was fun. I loved that fun. That's what one of the times we met George Lucas, is he came on tour and he saw our storyboards. And it was the first time we'd ever storyboarded every scene from the game. Like in the old Monkey Island, it would be like the artist would be like, Ron would tell Steve Purcell to draw something, and he would draw something and be like, wire it up. Okay. Like we never really knew like how many of these there were. Or, like we'll just keep working and we'll work all day and all night, and then the deadline comes and it's over. But then since the Day of the Tentacle, we put all the storyboards on the wall. We're so proud of ourselves. And George Lucas walks in the room. We told him, like, yeah, look at all these storyboards. He goes, yeah, can't make a movie without a script. And then that was it. That's all he said. It was not impressed. I was like, well, it's not a movie. He was not impressed with our storyboards.
Do you still have those?
I got some version of them in a binder somewhere. Yeah. They're all like.
What's your favorite one?
Of games or storyboards?
That you've made, like where you're like, this one is.
I don't know. All the games. I mean, they're all great. I love them all. They're really different. Like Full Throttle is when I was really getting into screenplay writing, and I think it has a lot of like the screenplay classes in it, like in all the love of that kind of storytelling. And Grimm is like had so many great artists and like musicians and actors came together to make this amazing thing. It's but Psychonauts has this life to it, that all these beloved characters. I'm not gonna pick a favorite. Brutal Legend is really personal because of heavy metal and all my childhood heavy metal heroes coming to be in it. And I don't know who can pick. Which is your favorite?
That's right. Yeah, that's like, which is your favorite kid, Aaron?
Oh yeah, which is your favorite kid?
Aaron has 50 children, so it's hard for him to decide.
I'll grow them in lab.
But so Full Throttle came out, like, how long ago was Full Throttle?
95.
That was like in 95. So it's like, a little while ago. And I'm an old person with not the best memory, but I have a very, very vivid memory of playing Full Throttle and I can't remember which, it must be towards the end of the game where you do this jump over a chasm or something. And it must have been hard enough that I failed it the first time I did it, and the dude breaks the fourth wall, and it's like, oh, that didn't work out the way I went. Yeah, and then you do it again, and it was the first time a game felt like an entertainment experience, like you would get in like seeing a film. Like, it surprised me.
And we were going big with that one. We were going really big. We're like, we wanted something to feel like Spielberg, like The Abyss, hanging off a cliff. It was just to be big. No, I know Spielberg didn't do The Abyss. I'm just naming epic.
That's a good movie.
Epic movies of the time. Cameron, all that. But yeah. Like that ending, we're like, oh, I can't believe how ridiculous this thing is. The cargo jet's going off the edge of a cliff, and a truck comes out of the cargo jet, and then the guy flies out the windshield. The cargo. Anyway, we did go big. We went for entertainment.
I loved it, and it was on a Mac. I played it on a Mac.
I know. I would see that. Oh, this is all connecting together. I see that Mac behind you. People can't see that, but there's a Mac lurking over your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Now. And for years after starting Double Fine, like 2000, it came out in 95, and then I remember walking to work and going by this Apple store on the way to Double Fine, like in 2001, and I would see this copy of Full Throttle in the window, and I was like, well, people don't make enough games for the Mac. That's really playing this one. So is that the Plus, or is that the one after? We had Mac Pluses on our desk when we were working on Monkey Island, because we didn't know, like, email on the PC was so primitive. Like, oh, we don't want to read our email on the PC. We want to read it on this beautiful little Macintosh over here. And I had a Plus, the one with the slats on the top, right? The air vent.
Yes.
So
this is.
Is that what you have?
No, it's a 512.
Okay.
Which came before the Plus.
So I think
it was original 128 that got upgraded. So it's got It's one of the ones that's got little
Like
signatures
it's all souped
inside
up.
the
He's
box.
talking about like it's a Camaro. He's got like, ooh, it's all shiny.
Exactly.
What do you use now? What's your choice?
And
Are you a PC?
The last thing I'll say about that is I'm sitting there, we're on Day of the Tentacle, I think, and I smelled bacon in my office. I was like, what's going on? And then I see a little bit of smoke coming out of those vents on that Mac Plus. I was like, oh shit, this Mac's on fire. And I had to grab it and unplugged it, and I carried it out to the parking lot where it just like burst into flames. It mostly just smoked. It mostly just smoked and cooked and gave off a delicious bacon smell. That ever happened to you?
Hey, that's funny.
I think it's before the days
no,
of
but
fans. They didn't put fans in those things back in.
That's right. Well, they don't put fans in a lot of stuff because they're, whatever, don't like the sound. But interesting that a burning Mac Plus smells like bacon. I didn't know that.
They probably flavorize it just so you pay attention.
What do you use now?
For all my,
By the way,
I have a PC now. I'm a PC person now.
I
I don't know why I switched, but I had Macs for years and then.
Oh, because you got bought by Microsoft.
That's what it was. They came through and they confiscated all the Apple products. I have to use a Zune now for all my phone calls.
I've been there.
No, I think they just finally made. I think something came out that made email tolerable on the PC. Maybe it was Windows or something. But then they were like, "Nope, we can't have two
Windows
computers.
98.
Can't have two computers." When we first started, we had a PC, and then we had before the Mac, we had a ADM3A terminal for the Unix mainframe that was in like the closet at LucasArts. Like their early development was on Unix machines, straight up Unix machines. Same as Berkeley had, and so you could sit there on your. Have you ever seen the ADM3A monitor? It's like the cool old, like you're in an old sci-fi movie, kind of one form with a keyboard and a monitor all in one thing, and clacky mechanical keyboard. Probably a super hipster thing to have now, but looked really cheap and old-fashioned at the time. And but we're in that Unix. Did you ever work in Unix? Did you do that in school?
For a hot minute.
Like you could access each other's terminals and like make dirty words appear on each other's terminal while they're working and stuff like that. You could just anyway, a lot of silly Unix pranks going on in the old days.
All right. Well, so you got a CS degree and you end up at LucasArts, and were you doing coding at Lucas? You were scripting. I'm guessing.
I came out of college knowing C and like Lisp and things that they taught us back in those days. All AI was done in Lisp, and then I learned Scrum at LucasArts, and I forgot all of my other programming except for 6502, which I still use. But so we'd go when we first started, they didn't know what to do with us because they weren't ready, so they just made us test. We tested Indiana Jones, the action game and stuff like that, and then we would just learn. We went to Scum University where Ron Gilbert would come teach us. Okay, everybody, we're gonna learn how to wire up a room. We're gonna wire up a room, then you'd leave and come back in the afternoon to see what we'd done. And Steve Purcell drew some Sam and Max art for us. So we had Sam and Max's office, and we were like making those all. It was years before the Sam and Max game, and we were making the TV have static on it. And they're like, now we'll add a character. This is how you control a character, and you would teach us. And then so it was really fun because we started. Then downgrading, like breaking into old indie games and taking the art from them, and then we'd add headquarters of Nazi headquarters to our Sam Max office, and we were like, anyway, just seeing what we could do in Scum. And then Dave and I tended to be the one that put the most jokes in our Scum U demos, and so Ron was like, "You two, come work on this crazy new idea I have called Mutiny on Monkey Island." Which is the old title of that game.
Here's what I'm imagining in my head. I don't know if this is right, but so early days, probably not too many professional writers in our fledgling industry. You're writing code scripting on the Monkey Island game, and you start writing dialogue. You start writing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the job description. That's why, because I had in college, I kind of was like, I'm going to get out of computer science. I'm going to write short stories like Kurt Vonnegut. I want to be a writer by the end of it. And I went to but I thought I would get a.
There's our Chicago connection. Oh, yeah. Kurt Vonnegut came from.
Because when he worked there, he wrote short stories, but he worked at like GE or something like that, like an engineer during the day, and then he wrote short stories at night. And he told a story about getting a check for $300 because the Saturday Evening Post published one of his stories or something. And I was like, $300? I want $300. So I'm going to get a database programming job and write short stories for $300 a pop. And because all the jobs that you hear about a lot, I wasn't very imaginative as far as my career went. I was like, okay, another program, all the job listings I see are for database programmers. I don't know why that was the hot thing. So I did some of those internships working on database programming, and then I saw this job listing for we want programmers who can write dialogue, and I was like, what? That's crazy.
That's like a unicorn.
Yeah. So came to LucasArts, and we were writing dialogue for our Scum U stuff, and then we started writing it for Monkey Island. We were just wiring stuff up and writing the silliest stuff we could think of. Dave and I were just trying to make each other laugh and just goofing around, because I was like, eventually they'll bring in a real writer to come in, like, put the real lore in here, like, oh, pirates in the 1600s would use this word and not this word, and like make it all, fancy and stuff like that. And then Ron's like, no, this is the dialogue. This is the dialogue in the game. I'm like, what? This because we were just writing our own voices, and characters were like had a lot of sarcasm and stuff, and I didn't realize, and I think that's what helped us write funny stuff in the beginning, because like we didn't think it was final dialogue, so we just kind of cut loose with all the jokes and stuff. And I think that was really helpful. I think if people who are in a position of writing and they just start thinking about the final product and the audience too much, they'll just shut down and be like, okay, I'm going to make the most conservative thing I can. And like learning to turn that off and just go completely nuts and write something ridiculous, I think is
right for
really
the trash can.
Right for the trash can. Yeah, I was writing the villager dialogue, and I was like, I wanted to get the villagers to turn around, so I was like, look behind you, a three-headed monkey, as a total, just a joke. Like, this is so stupid. And then Ron came up in the afternoon, like he always did, to check out what we had done, and we'd watch him to see if he was laughing or not. And he laughed at look behind you, a three-headed monkey. And I was like, I'm going to make that something better. That was just a dumb thing I just wrote. And he goes, no, that's in the game. And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, we're going to have Steve Purcell draw a three-headed monkey. He's going to walk in there as a final joke, so he can like put that punchline on the end of it. And that was a big lesson for me to learn. Like, yeah, when you're uninhibited, like you can write. To be uninhibited while you're writing a final product is really like the challenge and the mental state you have to put yourself into.
That's super cool.
Because what are you really afraid of? You're just afraid of someone's gonna like laugh at your stuff in the wrong way or something. Like you might as well just go for it. Put it out.
Do you worry like today though that like if you're not careful you could kind of say the wrong thing?
Well,
get canceled.
Like talk about spinning swastikas and stuff like that.
Chemtrails.
yeah, that kind of thing.
I people talk about that like you have to worry too much these days, but I don't think so. I mean, you always worry about if you're making art, right? Which I think we're making. You wanna think about your impact on the person viewing it or whatever. So if you're making a scary game, you're like, I want to fucking scare people, and if people are laughing, you're like, oh, I had the wrong effect on them. That's not the effect I wanted, right? So if you're running a comedy game and you're hurting people because you're like making them feel bad about who they are by saying something insensitive to, you're using the R word or something, like you made something that really hurts people, like that's not the intention either. Like I wasn't trying to write something hurtful. So you do think about that kind of stuff. I think a lot of stuff that people ascribe to like being PC and stuff is just considering other people's feelings and considering more people's feelings than we used to in the old days. In the old days, we just consider feelings of like me and people I know, but more and more you're like, oh, there are other people that exist in the world and we should also think about our impact on them. But I think, and the challenge is to like think about that stuff, think about writing stuff that doesn't like demean someone or disenfranchise them, but also be, funny and weird and crazy and silly at the same time. I think that's totally possible to do. You just have to like, accept that mission,
To that point, have you ever seen Troll 2? I'm not trying. That's like. Sorry, I'm not trying.
Best segue I've ever heard. Great point, Tim.
That's the second time. I'm so sorry.
You know what that makes me think of? Have you ever seen Critters 5?
Yeah, Critters 5 is also a classic. Or all the Critters
movies. Troll 2, which is the one that's beloved as the worst movie of all time? Is it Troll 1? Troll 2 is the one that's famous for it.
Troll 1 is actually scary. Troll 2 is like...
Which one is Jennifer Aniston in? Or no, that's Goblin. No, that's a Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Leprechaun.
Yeah, Leprechaun.
Who's in
Which
Troll?
is also
Who's
really
in
good.
Troll? I feel like you're going to say that about any movie I say. Have you? Have you seen
I'm not trying to...
Tremors?
It's like, you can put the shields down, Tim. I'm not trying. We're riffing, bro. We're riffing.
How did Troll 2 come up in your head just then?
Because you were saying, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right. I think everything you said, you're right. But the case of they were trying to make a scary movie and it ended up being funny and it ended up being a good thing. Kind of goes back to like your writing. Like you were just like, yeah, we're just goofing around, and then it ended up being pure gold that like kind of defined a franchise. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder. I've never seen Troll 2. I probably should watch Troll 2, but I've seen it. I've seen an interview with them.
Grab a beer.
Grab a beer. Get some eggplant and watch it on a moon landing set. But were they just like, let's just have fun and make it silly, or were they like, no? It's like when you watch an interview with Tommy How do you say his last name? About The Room. You know the movie The Room?
It's like that, actually.
And people love The Room and they laugh at it, right? But then Tommy's
Right.
now in this position of, I'm actually making money off this movie now. But I was serious as hell when I made it. But he
Exactly.
kind of pretends that he was in on the joke, like, yes, you like my satirical comedy, The Room, which I was totally serious about.
Yeah.
But it's troll like that, or they're like, no, we knew we were just having fun.
They got. Yeah, it's serious. They got some directors from Italy, I think, and then there's a documentary about it called "The Best Worst Movie of All Time" because there's a whole cult following now, and the director actually, you could tell that they're hurt because they were being serious, you know. So it's kind of like, but then now there's this huge following, and they don't know. Like it's a very
I don't know how I would feel about that if I made something that they rejected my intentions completely, but loved something that was an accident. I'd be like, oh fuck, I quit.
But that's what Monkey Island is, right?
Send your money here.
Yeah, well, that's what Monkey Island is in a way, right? Like you were just messing around and like having a good time.
Messing around, and I think Ron knew what he was doing and had a plan for it. And then once we got in line with that plan, we definitely made the game and it was liked for the reasons I think we intended it to be in the end.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It didn't end up being a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you were describing about when you start, you're just writing for yourself and the other people in the room and you didn't say these words exactly, but like as you mature, you realize there's other people in the world. That sounds so common sense, and yet so many people don't behave that way. I don't know why. But I think that my sense is that's a lot of why all of your stuff feels like it has some common thread to it and is so universally liked because everything has heart to it and feels genuine.
Soul.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think it was all made with good intentions. So even if we did mess up and do something wrong, I feel like it doesn't come across as hurtful or hateful, or I don't know. I always felt that way about Brutal Legend because it was a very violent movie, game. There's tons of decapitations in it and stuff like that, but it still doesn't really strike people as very harsh. You know, it's not like you're like wincing at it because it's done with a lot of humor and stuff, and so I think there just is an intention of humanism. I think maybe somewhere. I like people. We're not trying to hurt people, even if we're chopping their heads off. We're not trying to hurt them. You can turn off the decapitations because right as we were making it, I got this letter from a dad, like a physical letter. It was like, I really love playing Psychonauts with my 10-year-old son. We had so much fun, and I was thinking about this new game we're making. I was like, oh god. It's totally M-rated. How's this guy going to play with his 10-year-old? I should have thought through that. Well, this kid's going to be 15 by the time it comes out, so it's fine.
Yes,
but still,
exactly.
we put in a profanity filter and a gore filter, so you can turn it off if you want to. Just because I think actually bleeped dialogue is funnier. Like when Jack Black goes into his long rant at the beginning and he just swears every word he can think of, a dirty word but it's all bleeped out. I think it's actually funnier because you just imagine it even worse than it is.
Have you ever thought of doing like a profanity gore filter, but then just rendering a gray screen for the entire game?
Just so the blood's gray.
No, just like the whole thing.
There's
nothing
with no sound.
There's just nothing. Yeah, like that's what happens.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, speaking of Psychonauts, you just reminded me of something, and this is going into that conspiracy realm. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. No yellow flags. No yellow flags.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever you were doing, I'm sure y'all did like research, like a little bit of like R&D and stuff. Did y'all ever run into there's like this group of people that are trying to map this, like, they're called the actual Psychonauts, I think. They take DMT or something, and they're trying to map this like consciousness world.
Is it like, do they have a shared hallucination where they go to a shared that they say is another dimension via psychedelic drugs?
And they meet these like DMT. Yeah, it's like totally playing with fire. It's like the beginning of every horror movie. But like,
I think, are you asking Tim if he dropped acid?
Wait,
DMT? No, they're not doing.
I did do a little bit of acid before this interview just to
spice it up. But I was like, man, like, did y'all?
But I mean, like, if you're, no, I didn't hear about that. But if you're like, it seemed very really suggestible. It seemed like if you're talking about this world a lot, and then you take a psychedelic, the odds you will go to the shared world that you just all discussed so much. You know what I mean? But not to denigrate there. I have no proof that there is no other psychedelic world. But the odds of getting to a specific other dimension by taking Psilocybin?
DMT. It's the psilocybin. Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, we'll find out. We'll find out because a lot of those places are more and more legal with every day.
I think it's a bad idea.
A lot of more psychonauts every day exploring that space, but that's not what we do.
There's a place in LA that opened up that offers it's like psychedelic therapy, but it's without.
Oh, it's with mushrooms. Oh, or the sound and darkness.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, it's like an
Like
isolation
Altered States.
tank.
You can see Altered States. Have you seen that movie, the William Hurt movie?
No, I haven't seen.
No, get a beer. Check it out. It's pretty good. No, it's a movie about sensory deprivation tanks, right when they first came.
Yes, that's what they're
and
called.
And he goes
right?
into access his like primitive brain, and he meets like a caveman, or he becomes a caveman. And there's some pretty trippy stuff in there that I actually believe in, which is that I'm like, you know how we have things like our appendix and other organs in our body that people really don't know what they're for, but they're an evolutionary like dead end that like our body's made and then abandoned, and it's like, and we have old parts to our brain like lizard brain and stuff like that are like parts of our brain that have been in like other simpler branches on the evolutionary tree. So like those parts of our brain generate thoughts. So when we're dreaming at night, some of these characters and things that show up in our brains are coming from like really old parts of our brain. It's getting weird, but that's kind of what that movie is about. Like, there's parts of your brain that are very primitive. Like, sometimes people say you're scared of spiders because there was a time when we were smaller than spiders. That's just a theory. Like, it's a theory. Like, we're remembering a time when spiders loomed over us really big. I think it's because a lot of them are poisonous, and that's why we're scared of them. But but just the thought that we have like these ancient part of our brains that can generate actual thoughts. Then your consciousness is always trying to work in thoughts that it has. Is like, oh, you want to do that. Like when someone's under hypnosis and the hypnotist tells them to like cluck like a chicken, and they interview the person later, they're like, no, I just got this urge. I love it was a beautiful day, and I felt like clucking like a chicken.
You believe in hypnotism?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what people have said in interviews that they never say. They always kind of. Whenever your brain does something funny, like you have a weird emotion brought on by some sort of chemicals or something, you always kind of cognitive dissonance. That's the term. You work it into you make a rationalization for why you're having that. You're like, oh, that's just because I was upset about my mother who looked like a chicken. I don't know. Your brain tries to make it so anyway. They're all back to this primitive part of your brain with the caveman dreams. Like if you were having a dream that came from your primitive mind, your brain would try to put this wrap around it that it makes sense that you're having this dream.
Put a face to it, yeah. I just saw something about that where there's every culture, even cultures that have been isolated by like, they're like landlocked or like ocean, surrounded by an ocean or something, a body of water. All of them have developed imagery for dragons. So like every culture, and they don't know why, and there's people trying to figure out why that's the case, you know? And of course, there's some.
Existed.
Come on. Well, no, I don't know.
Dragons came from the moon, and they don't want us to find their secret base, and so they faked the moon landing.
I didn't say that. No. You profiled me. You think I'm gonna say that?
I mean, it's so hard to believe that.
I thought you were gonna say.
I mean, if you dug up a dinosaur head, and you found that, what would you think that came from? A dragon. You'd make up a dragon. If you found a T-Rex head in the dirt,
that's one of the theories.
Man, they used to be dragons.
It's one of the theories. The other one is that dragons kind of encompass a lot of things that humans are afraid of.
Reptiles.
So they think that like
fire.
Giant reptiles, fire. Flying creatures
Bats.
that can like So they like think that they kind of you naturally end up there, like
people who hoard gold.
The creative process.
People who eat princesses. A lot of things we're afraid of.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We've gotten into some heavy stuff today. I don't know why I went off on that whole caveman brain thing.
Let's segue back. Would you say that you are a master of the adventure game genre?
Who would call themselves a master? I'm definitely familiar with that genre. I've definitely been in there for a lot of my career.
I wanted to ask you, how do you make an adventure game?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, I have been involved in a lot of them, and it wasn't even what I was studying for. Like, I was more interested in AI and systemic stuff when I was in college. I was really interested in make systems.
Is that why you took a class on Lisp?
Yeah. Like I think I got a C in that class.
Is that the one where you write code like inside out?
Yeah, inside bracket. Like everything's a nested
inside brackets.
A bracket, like a parenthesis kind of thing. And I wrote like a Connect 4 AI or something once. So if you have any questions about Lisp, I'm the expert. I'm a master of Lisp. But no, I mean, adventure games for me are just I think I always think about worlds first, like the world of the Land of the Dead, or the world of, like Braun would say, like he was riding the Pirates of the Caribbean and he wanted to jump off the ride and be in that world of ghost pirates and stuff. So like, or the world someone was telling me the story of like spending the summer up in Alaska with hanging out at the biker bar and talking about all the antics the bikers got into. Like, so when you think about this world with this set of rules and stuff, I just like, oh, I want to go there. Like, video games are a great way to go to some world like that you can't go to, especially a world like Pirates that comes with all its set of rules. Like, you know the good guys and the bad guys and what the risks are, and so I think about the world, and then I think about who would be a cool person to be in that world. Like, would you want to be the Grim Reaper or the leader of a biker gang? Like, who would have a lot of fun in that world, a lot of powers? And then who would oppose them? I really like thinking about villains' plans. Like, watching Chinatown, and just when the bad guys and John Huston's plan for, like, his water real estate scheme is kind of exposed, you're like, oh, man. That was just like that kind of explains so many of the weird things that happen in the game. So like when you have the bad guy's plan and like how the protagonist is on a direct collision course with that plan, like, oh wow, that just writes itself. But that's more about how to write a story, I guess. And then figuring out all the oppositions, all the little struggles that person might come along the way, I think are the meat and potatoes of designing puzzles. We always design them in rooms full of people, like 4 people. We throw a bunch of candy on the table, and then we just all talk about The Simpsons until time's up, and then we have a game design magically. This was back in the early 90s. The Simpsons was new, but we did talk about that a lot during the Monkey Island brainstorming. We were like, have you seen this new show, The Simpsons? It's really funny.
Okay. World, hero, villain, and then
puzzles.
And then puzzles.
I mean, I like puzzles. Not everyone likes puzzles, because adventure games were not for everybody. Because a lot of people just do not like being stuck. Like, you play most games, like a physics-based game, it's something that's a skill-based. I'm going to blast my way through this. I can skill my way around it. But like a puzzle, it's about like lateral thinking. Like, the player is going to the game's going to stop until you figure this out. And that's a real challenging design space to be in, because like, how long do you want them? You want them to be stuck there for so long that it feels really good when they solve it, but not too long. And so, but you can have a lot of fun with it.
Did you like MUDs? Were you into MUDs?
I never did. I didn't ever do those. I still don't. I don't play a lot of multiplayer games. But like back in the old, there's a romance to it. Like the idea, even back on was it Commodore? You could call up these like. You could participate in these. I was always interested in them, but I never really engaged with them and stuff. I think because I'm scared of other people.
Wait, is MUD only multiplayer? What's the one that's just text-based adventures? Like
text. I love text adventures. I thought you were talking about multi-user dungeons is what I thought you were talking about.
Oh, okay. No, then I got it wrong.
This is text adventures is what I played. That's really what I played a lot of growing up in my computer days. After the Atari, I was playing on my Atari 800. I was playing like Zork and Deadline and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. Did you ever finish Zork?
Yeah, I did, and there were no walkthroughs. I mean, I don't know if I found. Yeah, on old BBSs, really? I think you could find a walkthrough maybe, but
because my dad got this computer before we got this Mac. He got a DEC Rainbow, which was
never heard of that.
It ran. Oh, yeah, digital equipment. It ran it's Rainbow, whatever. I don't know. Some salesman talked to him.
Is this the thing that looks like a sewing machine, and then you lay it on its side and you flip down a little screen with a keyboard on it?
No, it had a separate monitor, but it the only game it ran was Zork, like those Infocom games.
You bought a dedicated Zork piece of hardware.
Pretty much. I don't know what my dad did with it, but that's what I did with it. And then not too long ago, maybe like right after I got fired from EA, I fired up Zork and made a Miro board and just started remapping it. And the same thing happened. I got to the same, I think I got to a puzzle which I just got stuck on.
Yeah,
and didn't finish.
I mean, those worked in the old days because like you had one game sometimes this summer. Like you got this computer, you got one game, and you had nothing to do all summer. There's no internet. You can either go swimming or outside. And then you go, or you could work on this one game. And you'd hit. What happened is you'd hit a sumper, and like and then your dad who's watching over your shoulder would be like, "Let me sit down." Like that's the multiplayer version of adventure games, and you let someone else sit down. You and your friend would switch seats, and you'd go back and forth, and one of you would get it through. And if you absolutely got stuck, you would just go to bed, and then in the morning you'd wake up and be like, "Oh my god, I know what to do." You'd run down because the caveman dream. You had a caveman dream.
Yeah, yes,
caveman
that's right.
Piling. That's real, though.
The dragon.
That's
Or
real.
like,
The brain compiles puzzles.
It does. It does. It works while you're asleep. But also, it works sometimes if you just change your mental state. Like if you take a shower, go for a walk, or you somehow just break the rut that you're in, you'll be like, I know what to do with that puzzle. Or you just boot up the game again, you're like, I don't know what to do. And then you start, the first thing you type solves it. And you're like, wait, how did that happen? So that used to be how you'd play adventure games. And it works when there's only one game in the world. But like, if you can shut down your game and you have 10,000 things in your Steam library and your Game Pass, like, all these games, you never really did finish Elden Ring. You're like, I don't, and then you'll leave it. You'll never come back. So we try to think about that a lot in Psychonauts, which is kind of had adventure game puzzles here and there, scattered. Where like we should give you a bunch of jumping and collecting to do while you're stuck on a puzzle. Like go, just keep them in the game, and then they'll come back when they know how to solve the puzzle.
Smart. I guess I should delete everything off of my digital devices except for Zork if I want to actually power through and finish it.
I got stuck on Zork. I think I did look up a hint somewhere because there's a trick. There's this maze of twisty, windy passages all look alike.
Yes.
And the tip I read was like you take a bunch of dumb inventory items you don't need in there, and you just drop them in the rooms as you walk through, and you can map it out by going, oh, there's a screwdriver here. Like, oh, I'm in the screwdriver room. But the thief comes through, and the thief, look how vivid these memories are. I have no idea what I did yesterday.
They're like core memories.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, the thief, that stupid thief comes through and steals my screwdriver. I'm going to kill that guy.
You mentioned potentially writing a book. You're like, write a book, make the thing. Have you thought about making a text adventure?
I always think about writing a text adventure. Like I'm sure there's free engines online, and I could write one. And I'm like, what if I wrote just a 5-minute one for someone to play during lunch? I never do. I keep thinking of these things, but I also don't play a lot of text adventures now. I don't know if I would still be able to enter that zone where you're just reading text. Because I kind of hate reading text in games. When I'm playing a game and I find a book in a chest and I open it and there's a text to read, I'm like, what? Get rid of this book.
Fallout.
You could do it on Twitter, a text adventure. Just read a tweet.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can do it on Twitter?
You do your text adventure on Twitter.
So I would describe the room and then I'd wait for someone to tweet at me the response.
Yeah.
And then read all the responses.
Yeah.
Or get an AI to do it.
All right, you guys want to go? You guys want to open the mailbox? All right, here's what's in there.
Yeah.
What are you playing now?
I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom, like a lot of people. I'm really taking my time with Zelda. Like I loved Breath of the Wild, and I'm just playing this one as slowly as I can. Just like oh, I'm just wandering through. I'm not trying to get anywhere. Zelda can wait. She's fine.
She's fine.
I'm just gonna build a dumb raft, and I'm just constantly like trying to make these hot air balloons that catch fire midair and kill me, or like blow up and shoot into the sky and I get burned to death, and I love exploring the sky and the kingdom there. I was playing a lot of Dredge though. You play Dredge?
I want to play that. I have it's on my wish list.
It's one of those games that's kind of haunting. I keep thinking I finished it, but I mean I didn't finish my Fishopedia, but like I finished it and I keep thinking about sailing around those worlds and like, oh, I want to go back to that game. It had a cool vibe. And my daughter played it. She's 15 and she loved it. And she's like, are there any other games like this that are like not scary like Five Nights at Freddy's, but like just spooky and creepy and full of dread? Like I was like, I don't really know. Like I'm trying to think of games that are like just kind of eerie and dreadful and all that stuff, but not jump scares.
Dave the Diver is good.
I've never heard of that. What's that? Is it like Subnautica with a Dave in it?
It's like you run a restaurant, a sushi restaurant. You help run, and like you fish. You go fishing, and then you go back to your sushi restaurant and serve food.
Wait,
so
what's the creepy part? But that's not a creepy.
Oh, there's no creepy. No. The Fishopedia part that you mentioned earlier reminded me. Because there's a collectible card game in the game, and the collectible card game is all the fish that you've caught. It's a good game. It's like pixel art.
That's closer to what I was saying than Troll 2, though. So you're getting closer. That's a game.
I'm coming back.
That's a game.
That's an actual game. So how are you playing? I'm assuming you played Dredge on the
playing my Xbox
on the Switch.
On the Xbox, yeah.
And what about the Switch? Do you play handheld? Or I know this is very personal.
I realized this the other day. Like I was like, should I get a Steam Deck? Everyone's talking about these, and I was like, I don't really play handheld games anymore, and I think it's because I'm old and my eyes don't work. Like I seriously like little screens are like. Little screens. Like I end up getting bigger and bigger TVs as I get older because it's just like in my phone. If you look at the text on my phone, people who see me on my phone go, "Whoa!" Because the text on my phone is so big. I think that's why I don't enjoy looking at little screens anymore. Like I had it on the airplane recently. Like I was playing Zelda and I was like, I don't know. It doesn't feel. I'd rather
the text is really small on handheld.
Yeah. Why did you ask about handhelds?
I was just curious how you're playing it because I never play my Switch on the screen anymore. What? I just play it handheld.
great. You have those elf eyes. You can see anything.
No, I have my glasses on like this, so I can see the top part is like what allows. But yeah, it's the same.
We're like our parents were with rock and roll songs. Like, I don't understand the words on these movies these days. Fucking Dark Knight mumbled dialogue. Christopher Nolan. Well, he also cranks the music during, like, two people just be talking, and he's like,
That's so true. It's like one note.
In case people don't know how to feel about this dialogue, I'm gonna tell it's fucking epic.
Yeah.
Who needs to hear the words? You just need the feeling of the scene. So just crank the music to feel it, and words they can look at subtitles. I don't know why any director would want people to look at subtitles because it looks ugly on the screen. Like, it distracts you from looking at it. So.
And you don't get to pick the font sometimes.
Yeah, you don't ever in the theater get to pick the fonts.
Oh, in the theater you do.
Figure it out, Christopher Nolan. And I also play a lot of old Atari and Vectrex games. So there you go. Still playing them.
Wow.
Are you playing with your kids?
I do sometimes play with my kids, or it's like there are Facebook groups where people are really into old Atari games, and they'll be like, "This week we're trying to get high scores in Missile Command," and I'll be like, "Oh fuck yeah, I'm gonna!" And I will get into these weekly high score battles, and I'm always like 15th place or worse, but I still.
Cool.
It's because when you have a collection of video games, you never play them. Like you never like, you know what? Today I'm gonna play Moon Patrol and pull it off. Like you never. I don't know what it is. You just can't. It's like pulling a book off your bookshelf. You would never randomly go like, I'm gonna reread Huck Finn. You just. But you need these like groups, these like community groups to be like, this week everybody, we're all playing Moon Patrol. Play it. By the way, Moon Patrol is great on the Atari, so check it out.
Are you playing on a real console emulator?
Oh yeah, playing on the old
You're playing actual.
I love original hardware. I love slamming in cartridges. I just like the way they feel. I even have an 8-track player in the garage because I love putting in an 8-track, snapping in cartridges. They sound terrible. They warble and the songs are cut in half. The songs will fade out when they need to switch tracks. Like, yeah, you're listening to a song like, and you're like, oh no, my radio's broken. Then it chick, and it fades back up again. Like, wow, people used to put up with that. Songs fading out in the middle.
I never had an 8-track.
I got one because there's a robot called 2XL. Did you ever see that toy when you were a kid? And I was like, I'm going to help you with your homework. And you put in these like, they were 8-track cartridges. And it'd be like, what is the capital of Nigeria? And then is it A? And you'd switch tracks on essentially an 8-track. You'd push his buttons. And you'd go, and the one track would be like, you're wrong. That's the wrong answer. And then if you pick the right track, it'd be like, you're right. So you picked one, and one's like, oh, I'm sorry. You keep pressing them all until you find the, hey, the one that was like, you got it right. Anyway, that's the whole reason I bought an 8-track player when I was a kid. And now I just want to, I don't know why I'm collecting them. COVID did weird things to a lot of us. We just had too much time in our hands, and we're like, you know what? I wonder if my favorite toy from when I was a kid is on eBay. Oh my God, it is.
Yeah, I just went in the garage, cut wood. That was my COVID.
That's probably better. What kind of thing are you into making? Tables?
I make furniture, and the thing I taught myself over the last few years is this Japanese art.
Joinery?
Yeah, it's called kamiko. It's like...
You guys talk while I look this up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that stuff's pretty. Oh, look at that stuff. And stuff's a zombie
He's
guitar.
all modest. It's like really good stuff. I'm like, hey, Alex.
Oh, neat. Is the kamiko part, is it the weaving of the wood, or is it the joinery?
Yeah. There's very small pieces of wood that are cut at extremely precise angles.
No nails, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't hide the
friction
joints.
fit together.
Yeah. Oh, that stuff. Oh, wow. It gets really mathematical.
Yes, it's very. It's a very kind of OCD endeavor because like those things, it's hundreds and hundreds of tiny little pieces of wood that you methodically cut and fit together. And
that does seem like something you get into when you're under quarantine. You can't leave your house.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
I've been doing that lately. I would show you, but I'm making these. I got a laser cutter. I've been laser cutting and trying to design this shelf to hold a certain type of old retro video game part in the way that I like. I'll show you that. Later. It's not when it's done. But I'm getting to work trying not to burn my house down with this laser cutter.
Is the studio are people back in the office, or is it hybrid?
It's hybrid. It's really changed things forever. I think some people are like, "Oh wait, I hated commuting. I'm never coming back." And we're like, oh, "Okay." But a lot of people you can tell. It's so funny to see there's some people who desperately wanted to come back. There's some people who either can't work at home, but also there's a lot of people who just like, I miss people. I want to be around people. And then some people are like, I am so happy all by myself at my house. And so it's funny to see that split. But I've recently just gone, hey, officially, could you guys try to come back on Tuesdays and Thursdays, please? Because it's hard because in San Francisco's it got too expensive after we started the company, and so people started moving out to other places in the Bay Area. So it's like Oakland, and they live in the San Jose, out far away, or Petaluma. And they got really used to not commuting. And then when you don't commute for a while, and then you ask them, even me, I was like, everyone's got to come back to the office. And then I got back on the train again, and I was like, oh, that's right, commuting is terrible. Like, because we're in our homes, we're like kings and queens. We're like surrounded by all the people we love, all the stuff we love, and our pets. We're like these emperors. And then we get on this, we're like, it's like Joe versus the volcano for a deep cut there. But like we're just marching off to the coal mines, like, so we're trying, because I do miss. I don't know if you saw a documentary I made, but I was watching the documentary about the making of Psychonauts 2, and I seeing everybody in the office hanging out, and for important meetings, but also for dumb stuff and for playing board games, or for just someone was like sitting at someone else's desk looking at some art and they're eating a bowl of cereal, and I was like, oh my God, you never see that anymore. Like, first of all, COVID germs, but like, it's like just that downtime of like saying dumb stuff to the person who's not on your project while you're both in the kitchen and all that stuff. Like, I don't know, all that stuff seems to be. I realized that was one of the things that I liked most about our company, was that it was a fun place. Yeah. It was a fun place, a fun group of people. It was great to hang out with them every day. And so I've been trying to recapture that while allowing for people to have those days where they get a lot of work done because they're at home. And I think a lot of bad habits develop, though. Like, people were like, oh, great, I'm at home, so I can, like, do all these errands. I can, a lot of people, I'm not saying people aren't working hard, but I think when we're working at home, we, like, get into this different routine, different rhythms. And
yeah, well, all of that, like the unplanned conversations, that's all fuel, It's like it's like creative fuel, and then it's also like you get iterations on stuff that you didn't plan for. It just makes stuff
verbalizing
better.
Stuff unlocks your head a lot of times. Like, you're stuck in your own thoughts, and you're like playing a adventure game, you're stuck on a puzzle. Like, verbalizing it, sometimes you're like, I just solved my own problem by talking to this guy at the water cooler. And that's something. I also think it's really important to your mental health. And I think a lot of people don't value that because they would call themselves introverts. And a lot of us in the games industry are introverts, or combinations of introverts and extroverts. And there's times when I'm home alone, like, I love this. I never want to go in anywhere. I like being at my house. I don't want to go anywhere. And then I go to the office and I see everybody, and we're all like laughing about something. And I was like, oh, that's right. I like people. I do like being around them. And you forget how you need, I think everybody, even if they're introverted, needs a certain amount of social interaction. Or you don't realize, but you're getting like depressed, or you're getting uninspired, or you're getting kind of in a rut, and you don't know why you're not as inspired or happy as you used to be. And part of that's because you're not interacting with people.
Start a commune. Yep. Best of both worlds.
So, are you a commune? Is it a conspiracy theory commune? Or is it a Troll 2 themed commune?
Everybody lives at home, and you're all together.
Is that the best of both worlds, or the worst of both worlds? I don't know.
Because you're like always together. You're at home.
That's like game dev in your 20s. Like, you're working at a big company, and you go to dinner with everybody from work, and you play games with them at your house. And like, are we ever not in this mode?
Wait, was it like that when you first were like at Lucas? Was it kind of? Yeah, actually, I don't know what the answer to this would be. Like at Bungie in the early days, it was like we were just talking to somebody who's still at Bungie now, but started 23 years ago or whatever. And he said he was shocked when he first came to visit us. He was working at a web agency. He came to visit us to interview, and there were cots in the office. And he's like, what is happening here? And like, was Lucas sort of that kind of collegial, like we're, crunchy kind of game
and that's a whole issue. But like when I got there, like we were a bunch of people in our 20s. We all loved games. And we all couldn't believe we were working at Skywalker Ranch. So we're all pretty psyched to be there, right? Living a dream job. Yeah. And everyone was so cool. Like everyone was so creative, and everyone was really smart and fun, and like so we'd all go out to dinner together. Like I just remember we'd go to Ron Gilbert's house to watch Twin Peaks when that first came out every week. We would watch The Simpsons or like, and we'd hang out constantly. Everyone was like dating each other and stuff. So it's like that, like it was like really, and it's really fun for a few years when you're right out of school, because that's kind of what school is like. That's kind of like what college might have been like for you, or like your young life. So. And then I remember one day we're in the middle of Monkey Island, or coming on the beginning of the last third of it, and Ron just stuck his head in our office and was like, "Hey, Tim and Dave, they're getting down to that part of the project where we have to start working nights and weekends." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, great," because we were just so into it. Like, yeah, some Monkey Island, let's do it. And then we worked this big crunch mode and make Monkey Island 1. And then Monkey Island 2, they're like, well, it should take the same amount of time as Monkey Island 1, but we designed a game that's like 5 times as big without realizing it. And then the crunch mode for that was just constant, and it got a little more heated. Like I remember fighting with, like we were squirting each other with water pistols, and we got into this wrestling match where we're trying to dunk water in each other's heads, and it was getting really like, I was like, this has gone too far. We're trying to kill each other. I think we really want to kill each other. But it was.
That's
really,
how
really
Wide
cringe.
Load was too.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut
and
you.
and that's when I was married at the time, and that's when that marriage ended, because I was like at work all the time. I didn't understand why it bothered my wife. I was like, I'm the one working super hard. Why are you complaining that not coming home? And she was like, okay, fine. And then before I knew it, it was over, and I was like, oh, that's why. Oh, that's why I should have gone home. I think it's affected a lot of marriages, young marriages back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that, like Day of the Tentacle really didn't have much crunch mode on it at all, because we had like an extra 6 months because it was our first talkie, so we did our first like voice. We're like, okay, game's done, let's add voice to it now, and like we had 6 months of adding voice to it, and so we had the storyboards, which made it all much more
That's right.
predictable and stuff.
No
But
script, but the storyboards.
then we had crunch on throttle, but you're right. Like early on, it's tied with the camaraderie. Like there's this weird togetherness feeling of the crunch mode in the early days when you're young, and we want, like, in some ways you want it because you're like, I remember I'm gonna see how long I can stay awake. I remember during Full Throttle at one point, I stayed up for 36 hours. I'm like, I'm gonna get all this dialogue written. I'm gonna stay up, and I only did that once, and you're like, and then it was that way on Grim Fandango, and then Psychonauts 1 had this terrible crunch. But it's during Psychonauts 1 we all just collectively broke. We're like, even though we had these lovely memories of like getting together and eating Chinese food at night for dinner and watching Arrested Development together, like we were tight, we were bonded, we all liked each other. But near the end of it, we were just like, let's never do this again. Let's never have this crunch mode again. So we studied new production methods. We'd never heard of Scrum before. We're like, we're going to read about Scrum. We're going to learn these things. We're going to change our build process so we can lock the builds earlier. We just did all these things to like starting to value going home, and like, and a lot of us are also getting older. Some of us are having kids, and I think that helped a lot. Like, you got to go home, and really just trying to change our mindset about crunch mode. Like, this is not healthy, because the problem with the crunch mode is that there's like sinister and not sinister reasons for it. The sinister is that a company is exploiting you because they're like, we need this deadline not to move. We're not going to give you any more budget, and we can't lower the quality bar. So the only thing that they can lower is like the quality of life of all the employees. So a company can't exploit people with crunch mode. But there's like the thing that I've been, which is someone who's so creative, someone's so focused on the creative part of the game, they can't see anything else, like how hard people are working. They're just like, guys, it has to be good. We have to do this. And sometimes people get into that. They're like, yeah, we got to do this. It's got to be good. So there's a positive and negative side of that, where you're like, you believe in what you're making. It feels good to work hard on it. And you don't see that things are happening, like your marriage is falling apart or something like that. You're so focused. And then there's this part of individual, even like an individual working on an indie game all by themselves can crunch themselves, because they're just like, this is me. This game is me. There's no boundary between me and the game. It has to be super good. It has to be perfect. You just work on it. There's no one telling you. There's no producer to tell you to chill out or have a deadline or whatever like that. So you just like work on it constantly. And I know a lot of indie devs who've done this, who just worked on the same game for 12 years and won't release it because it's not perfect or whatever, and burn themselves out that way. So it's like you have an individual, and you have like a creative leader, and you have a company that might all kind of want you to crunch. And it's a very hard mindset to change, and it's a constant fight, and we still do it to this day, as you saw in that documentary, which you should watch. Have you seen that documentary, by the way?
Yeah. I haven't seen all the episodes.
It's long. It's daunting because it's long, but once you start, you won't be able to stop because it's. Oh, wait! I think you just.
How do you watch it? I haven't.
It's
seen
on our
it
YouTube
either.
channel. It's on the Double Fine YouTube channel. It's free. Just get a beer and enjoy it.
How do you watch this?
Go to the Double Fine YouTube channel, and it's serious. There's a playlist called the Double Fine Psychodicy, and it's this group 2-player productions who they came into our studio to record our Kickstarter years ago, and they just never left, and they joined the payroll, and they just they hide out in the corner they've hung out in the corner of our offices for so long, no one even sees them anymore. And they've been filming, and we didn't expect Psychonauts 2 to be such a roller coaster, because we thought we were so smart, so much smarter than we made the first one. We learned all these lessons. We're veterans. We know how to make a predictable game, and it was just such a crazy experience and such a more difficult project than anyone anticipated. And it's all on film. Like they filmed us fighting, and they filmed us like firing people and having people crying and stuff. And it was a backer reward, so it kind of like couldn't like back out of it, and I kind of wanted to tell that story. Like, I kind of wanted, like, I always wanted to like let people know what game development is like, the good and the bad, because it is what it is, and it's like I think there's a lot of mystery to it because all the making of documentaries you watch are made by, it's a marketing asset. It's meant to sell the game, so they only tell the positive side of it. They never talk about what they had to cut and the toll it took on the team to work hard, and all that stuff is never really shared. And I want to share that because I think there is, even though we put all that rough stuff in there, we've hired at least 3 people since then who's like, I came here because of that documentary. I really thought I really loved, like, you still see all this creative collaboration and all this the positive side of a team working together, a team who like likes each other and works and likes what they're working on, and like the good and the bad of game development. So I recommend it. It's very entertaining.
I'm gonna check it out. I love that kind of stuff.
And didn't finish it. You got to get through.
Well, I gotta finish work too. So I got 2 things on my. And it's free, right? You can just get on there and watch. All right, so we'll do a giveaway.
It might be too close to home. You might watch it and get PTSD trigger symptoms of like your last. You're like, oh god. Because you can map. It's like looking at someone else's yearbook from high school, and you can map everyone you knew to their character in their high school. You know, ever seen that? Like, you're like, oh my god, you had that popular guy, and you had that jock, and they had the. You'll watch it, and you'll see people from your own company in our company, I bet, and you'll be like, oh no, I can't relive this.
Double Fine Psych Odyssey.
Double Fine Psych Odyssey. That's right.
Oh, Psych Odyssey.
Put the emphasis on any syllables you want.
Yeah.
It's like 12:20. We all have to go eat lunch.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you all. I learned so much. Troll 2.
Troll 2. Grab a beer, baby.
Thanks, Tim. Great to see you.
Well, thanks for having me. Lovely speaking to you.
Nice meeting you, Tim.
And we'll see you around.
Nice to meet you too, Aaron. All right, bye, guys.
Cheers. See ya.
How cool was that to chat with Tim Schafer? Tim's like everybody's favorite game dev.
I remember one of my friends I went to school with, college with, art school with, life school.
Life school.
I just keep going. That dude. Yeah. I remember we were in school and we were like learning. This is when like multimedia was new. You know, CDs had just come out, and like we were trying to get into games. There's no way to get into games. There was no way. Like, you had to go to USC or USC.
That was it.
Like, there was like nowhere to go. That was it. It was, you know, film school. So we were in this class, and he walked up to me and he was like, hey, I know how we can get into the industry. And he showed me this animation magazine. Anyways, that dude ended up working with Tim Schafer. He said he co-wrote, what is the Halloween one? Costume Quest.
When I asked him, how do you make an adventure game? Partly, you know, like, as I was looking at all the games that he's made.
That's a big question.
I know, but like, as I was looking at all the games he made, it just occurred to me, it's like, he spent the bulk of his career in this genre, and there's some things about it that he's exceptional at. I mean, he's exceptional at everything about it, but there's some things that just stand out. Like, writing is a much bigger part of the craft for that genre than it is for, say, other genres. Right?
That's true. Yeah.
So my question was partly like, hey, this is a question that our listeners might actually enjoy the answer to, but selfishly, it was legitimately a question from me. It's like, Tim, how do you? More so than how does one?
It's a very big question,
though. Tim? Like, how do you make an adventure game? And I thought he gave like a really kind of like simplified answer, but it was I think super cool. Almost like a hierarchy about the way he thinks about creating a world, and then a hero and a villain, and how important the villain is because the villain's trying to do something, and setting his hero on a course to intersect, you know, the villain's nefarious actions, and just listening to a master craftsperson talk about how they approach something, they make it sound so simple, you know. Oh, hey, we can do that. Yeah. It's just 5 steps. It's like a recipe. But obviously, it's not that simple. But I just thought it was really interesting to hear him simplify the craft of building an adventure game so succinctly.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, talking to him, his cat, like the writing for Trash Can thing, I thought was really. I'm in that state now, like all the time. I think that is probably the best piece of advice. I got it from, I think it was Stephen King. Mm-hmm. I read his On Writing book. If you're a writer and you want to learn how to write, On Writing is the best book, in my opinion.
Even if you're not a writer, it's a great book. Yeah,
it's a good book.
Yeah,
it's fantastic, and that there is this like rawness and this simplicity, and you see that with food too. You know, like some of the best food is just really like it's not over processed. It's raw, more on the raw side. It's like simpler. I don't know. Now I'm getting all weird, poetic, but
Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
you know, I feel like it's better for your body. It tastes better.
Clean
and, like,
fuel.
all these
Yeah.
things, clean fuel. And I think that translates into all mediums. Complexity tends to ruin things sometimes. You know, overcomplicated. I'm still kind of like hungover on the last little talk we just had of the depressing thing. So, like, you took me to this, like, yeah, let's get emo, dude. Anyways.
All right. Well,
Well, we can't end there. Alex just like rubbed his face like, oh my gosh. He does that. So,
just cleansing, just cleansing it out. No, I think that's
cleansing.
solid. I think that's a good place to let everybody get back to their day. Yes, thanks for being with us.
Yes, thanks for joining us on this monumental episode.
If you've made it this far to the episode, then you are the folks that I want to ask to, hey, if you have an extra moment, head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and give us a rating if you're going to give it 5 stars. You know, if you don't want to give it 5 stars, then go make a sandwich. But but if you have a moment, the ratings do help us out, and it's really appreciated. Thank you again for listening.
We really do.
Talk about it. We talk about it.
Like, we do. It's like we really appreciate it.
So thanks for being along with the journey with us, and we will see you next time.
Cheerio.
Thank you for listening to the Fourth Curtain Podcast. To get a peek at upcoming episodes or to send in questions to the show, visit our site at thefourthcurtain.com. And be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening.
My dear Phil Sway, Ulysses here. I've been getting threats against continuing my work. I can't give in to them. This is too important. I'm wondering if I can engage your services for security again. Your martial arts expertise would be most welcome if things get a little exciting. Do let me know. Ulysses out.